Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode in a video series presented by KupoCon, where I'll be exploring the Final Fantasy VII compilation lore and Easter eggs that appear in the remake. I'm MJ Gallagher, author of the unofficial Final Fantasy VII Novelisation, the standalone novel The Nibelheim Incident, which is now an audio series also produced by KupoCon, and the new book Norse Myths that inspired Final Fantasy VII. The purpose of this series is to discuss a lot of the detail hidden within the remake, and to provide a broader understanding for new and veteran fans alike. In the last episode, I continued with my breakdown of Chapter 9, titled The Town That Never Sleeps, exploring a bit of Wall Market, and setting the stage for Cloud and Aerith to rescue Tifa from Don Corneo. This time around, I'll be concluding my Chapter 9 trilogy by properly introducing the so-called trio, delving deeper into the grand plan to sneak into the Don's mansion, and the execution of said plan. The video will inherently include spoilers for this section of the game, but anything beyond Chapter 9 is minimal and mainly speculation. However, as always, if you're not familiar with the original story, there will very likely be heavy spoilers. Having been advised by Leslie on how to get official approval from Chocobo Sam, Madam M or Andrea Rodea, otherwise known as the Trio, Cloud and Aerith leave Don Corneo's estate. They are soon approached by Johnny, who has already declared his love for Tifa, and is determined to save her on his own. Following the redhead, we'll see him run to the stables at the south entrance to Wall Market, owned by Chocobo Sam. If you wait for a moment, Johnny will slump dejectedly away from Sam, and speaking to him will give the player a hint about which option to pick in a forthcoming coin toss. As it happens, Chocobo Sam uses a trick coin, so Cloud and Aerith will be told they're wrong no matter what they choose. The answer given, however, does go towards which side quests are offered to the player. In any given playthrough, you can complete jobs for Sam or for Madam M, but not both. There are a few variables to this though, so it doesn't hinge on which option you select here. Again, this is just a little callback to the gold saucer date mechanics of the original game. After stopping by the Honeybee Inn, which I'll come back to later, Cloud and Aerith make their way to Madam M's massage parlour. I really liked Madam M as a character, particularly how she has no problem dropping her facade of being on Don Corneo's side. The initial example here is how quickly she shifts from being an enchanting hostess to calling Aerith stupid for wanting to audition as Don Corneo's bride. Like with Chocobo Sam, the player's choice of hand massage offered by Madam M will affect which side quests they unlock, as well as which dress Cloud ends up in. The scenes for each massage option are amusing, and the sexual innuendos are ridiculous. But to be fair, it's exactly what you would expect in Wall Market. I must admit, I laughed out loud after the luxury massage when Cloud walked past Aerith in a daze. An interesting little tidbit here is that, fleeting as it is, this is the first time in the remake that the player is granted control of a character other than Cloud. Aerith also had this honour in the original game, though it too is so brief that many fans may have forgotten. After the party first encounters Rufus, Cloud commands the others to escape the Shinra building. Tifa waits behind, and the player gets to control Aerith as far as the elevators, where the 100 Gunner and Heli Gunner battles take place. Madam M promises to put Aerith in a stunning dress, in exchange for the pair winning the tournament at the underground Corneo Coliseum, which is one of the remake's new additions. Upon arriving at the arena, Cloud and Aerith are told to take an elevator into the basement, and as they step out into the waiting area, the doors at the end of the corridor open to reveal the compers are none other than Scotch and Koch. Veteran fans may recognise the duo as Don Corneo's henchmen from the original. Both are minor characters, but have dark comedic moments in their own right. If Corneo picks either girl during the audition, Scotch is the one who tries to touch Cloud inappropriately, and loses his mind when he realises he's a man. Meanwhile, Koch finds himself tied up in the sex dungeon. In one of the rooms at the waiting area, Cloud and Aerith find a miserable looking Johnny, who has been beaten up in his first fight. On the table beside Johnny is a mystery drink that was given to him by Don Corneo. If Cloud inspects the bottle, he will be offered the chance to try some. Doing so serves no purpose, as it has no effect whatsoever. I've racked my brains about what this could be a reference to, and my only answer is that it's one of the energy drink potions from the special vending machine in Corneo's dungeon. All we know is that it tastes thick. The Coliseum itself is pretty reminiscent of the battle square at the Gold Saucer, and might indicate that the development team intend to implement this type of combat arena for each instalment of the remake. The design here follows the same style as much of Wall Market, that is, inspired by Wutai culture, and while there's not really any definitive connection, it's possible the statues dotted around are avatars of Da Chao, as I discussed in the previous episode, or even representations of the five mighty gods, who are the foremost figures of Wutai, namely Sheik, Gorky, Staniv, Chekhov, and Godo Kisaragi. There's also a great little callback at the end of the battles where the victory fanfare plays, and Cloud and Aerith do their poses from the old game. This becomes a regular feature of the Coliseum fights, and also the combat simulator battles. After defeating Beck's badasses in the semi-final of the tournament, the player is treated to a cutscene of the VIP gallery, where Madam M and Chocobo Sam are discussing Cloud. Madam M remarks that Cloud's palm told her he had cheated death more than a few times. This is a likely reference to the broader compilation where Cloud, in chronological order, has survived falling off a cliff with Tifa as a child, the pursuit of the Avalanche Ravens in episode 5 of Before Crisis, facing Genesis and Angeal at Modeoheim in Crisis Core, being stabbed by Sephiroth during the Nibelheim incident, the subsequent experimentations by Hojo, and of course Zack's final stand against the Shinra army. And that doesn't even count the near misses from Final Fantasy VII itself, such as his plummet from Mako Reactor 5. When you think about it, you could argue Cloud has more lives than Sung. One of the biggest surprises in the remake was the inclusion of the Hell House. This quirky enemy has become a bit of a cult classic, and having Hell House appear in this particular context works extremely well. As I touched on in the last video, this secret boss seems to be part of the Corneo Circus of Awe. The remake's co-director, Motomu Toriyama, even provided some commentary on the decision to include Hell House during an interview with Square Enix's North American team. He said that the monster was too bizarre to not have a lead in, and they elected to make it more of a spectacle, so a load of lines were recorded for Scotch and Koch which are, quite frankly, hysterical, as is the house's use of furniture as a weapon. Back at Madam M's parlour, she tells Cloud to head off on his own, while she does her best to spruce up Aerith's so-called plain Jane appearance with a new dress and makeup. This is a deviation from the original game, where the protagonists go on their infamous side quest to gather accessories to add to Cloud's outfit. Aerith, of course, previously selected her own gown from the dressmaker's shop. All is not lost, however, as a variation of the side quest can be undertaken if the player has unlocked Chocobo Sam's missions. Rather than having Aerith accompany him around Wall Market, Cloud is left with Johnny. Like in the original, the first step in the process is to locate the owner of the clothes shop and to persuade him to return to work. However, the places Cloud and Johnny have to visit, such as the bar, the materia store, the inn, the restaurant, and the pharmacy, all relate to tracking down the owner's inspiration instead of accessories for Cloud. But the runaround to identify the special gift in the vending machine, obtain the pharmacy voucher, and give the digestion medicine to the person in the bar toilet is effectively the same. At the end of the mission, it turns out the clothes shop owner's inspiration is actually his VIP pass for the Honeybee Inn. He tells Cloud and Johnny that he used to make the dresses for the Honeybee girls, suggesting a VIP membership was his motivation to do so. The old man eventually gets up and drunkenly stumbles out of the bar, explaining that he is going to go make use of his pass, but not before picking up a gift dress to take with him. Given that he is responsible for Cloud's frock in the original Final Fantasy VII, this line would explain how Andrea Rhodea comes to be in its possession. In the old game, another part of the side quest to obtain accessories for Cloud was a visit to Big Bro's gym to compete in a squats challenge. The gym is owned by Big Bro, alternatively known as Beautiful Bro, who is a short individual with long brown hair pushed back with a headband. Big Bro's field model actually uses a female figure, which is a likely reference to his love for drag. In the remake, the gym's head trainer is introduced as Jules, who shares similar characteristics to Big Bro. Jules is revealed in the Final Fantasy VII Remake Ultimania to be the brother of the Honeybee Inn's Andrea Rhodea, so the Big Bro reference takes on a new meaning, albeit the Ultimania has Andrea as the elder of the two. Another little tidbit here is that the muscular trainers who challenge Cloud in the squats minigame have now been given names. Their names in Japanese are Zen-Wan and Santiu, but in the English localisation they are called Ronnie and Jay, and are thought to be based on iconic American bodybuilders Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler. The primary side quest for Madam M sees the return of Mireille Dudley from Chapter 8. It turns out a shipment of donations has been stolen, and a suspicious calling card has resulted in the accusation that the guardian angel of the slums is behind it. Mireille is adamant the angel is in no way involved, insisting she would never do anything to harm those less fortunate. Her reaction is a callback to the official novel The Kids Are Alright, authored by Final Fantasy VII scenario writer Kazushige Nojima. In a flashback during the book, the main character, Evan Townsend, recalls the day he first met Mireille. She was very angry with her granddaughter, Kyrie, for targeting Evan as an easy individual to steal from, highlighting that their code as con artists was only to take advantage of those who deserved it. Cloud tracks down the so-called Garden Angle 3 and, surprise surprise, it's Beck's badasses again. This time, however, they have a hulking comrade called the Grunt them in battle. Though this is mere conjecture, it's possible the massive figure is the same giant doorkeeper at Don Corneo's mansion that Evan encounters in The Kids Are Alright. When Madam M is finished with Aerith, she is brought by Johnny to meet Cloud outside Corneo's estate. Like Cloud and Tifa, Aerith also has a selection of 3 dresses that she might appear in, and this is based on how many side quests the player completes during Chapter 8. If you manage less than 3 of the quests around Sector 5, Aerith will appear by default in the modest pale pink dress. If you complete 3 or more, she will appear in a dark pink outfit. Finishing all 6 of them, however, will result in Aerith wearing a stylish red number, similar to the one in the original game. The scene and music plays out differently depending on which dress she has on. The cutscene for the default frock has Aerith turn up at the mansion, accompanied by a disgruntled Johnny, as well as a rat, a stray dog, and a cat. Consequently, both she and Cloud seem almost horrified by Madame M's handiwork. The dialogue here is pretty hilarious though, and even takes a subtle dig at the player for not putting in the effort of finishing the side quests. Conversely, the extravagant dress draws a whole retinue of admirers and photographers, and the celebratory atmosphere is capped by a fireworks display. Here, Johnny literally rolls out the red carpet for Aerith. The fireworks themselves are an interesting addition, as they are reminiscent of the Enchantment Evening Gondola trip, which is the closest Cloud and Aerith ever get to a proper romance. The visuals on the bridge of the swordsman gawking at the gown, and the brief flicker of it making Aerith feel good about herself, is, in my opinion, a really special little moment. The Honeybee Inn has become one of the most infamous locations in the entire Final Fantasy series. This gentleman's club had a reputation in the old game as a seedy establishment, but it has been given quite a fabulous uplift for the remake, and the affluence really shines through. When Cloud and Aerith had earlier visited the Honeybee Inn, they were informed that the waiting list to see its proprietor, Andrea Rodea, was 3 years long. However, following their success at the Coliseum, Andrea has taken a personal interest in Cloud and has requested a face-to-face meeting. Aerith explains that the fantastic plan to sneak her friend into Don Corneo's mansion is to put him in a dress, and they'll require Andrea's services. Entering the main lobby, the player is presented with a number of doors around its perimeter. The first on the left contains Johnny's dad, getting a private dance from one of the honeybees. The older man isn't present during this scenario in the original game, but there is a scene outside the brothel where an agitated Johnny and an NPC using this character model can be found. It's not made clear in the English version of Final Fantasy VII, but this character is an employee and can be seen in the staff area in the development screens of an early, unused version of the Honeybee Inn. Elsewhere in the lobby, there's also a powder room, which is a callback to the original when Cloud had his makeup done by one of the girls, as well as a couple of keyholes to private rooms that can be peered through. One of these has a customer being massaged or something, and the other contains an overweight figure in a tan suit chasing a girl with a net. This is Palmer, the director of Shinra's space program, and his presence is actually a 2-tiered Easter egg. Firstly, in the corresponding section during the old game, the keyholes reveal A, a confused elderly couple who are heavily suggested to be the parents of Reeve Tueste, Shinra's director of urban planning, and B, the reenactment of some theatrical scene performed by a high-ranking official who is supposed to be meeting President Shinra for lunch, or who is the president himself. Unfortunately, the translation is unclear. Either way, Palmer is now the Remake's Shinra connection. However, diving a bit deeper into the more abstract content of Final Fantasy VII will also reveal that in the unused version of the Honeybee Inn I mentioned earlier, it is indeed Palmer who is using one of the upstairs rooms when Cloud arrives. In true Final Fantasy fashion, it all gets a bit crazy after that. Cloud is forced onto the stage to perform a dance routine with Andrea, which the protagonist just sort of takes in his stride after an initial hesitation. The creators went all out to bring the Honeybee into life in the remake, and I commend them for it. It's certainly got a Moulin Rouge vibe going on. After the dance-off, Andrea's honeybees will transform Cloud into a beautiful girl, which even draws gasps from Aerith. Which dress Cloud is given depends on the side quests completed in Wall Market. Doing Madame M's will result in a pale violet frock, Chocobo Sam's in a black and indigo number, and not completing either will leave him in a grainy black gown. And to make the dance minigame even more worthwhile, you will be rewarded with Andrea's personal earrings if you achieve at least 112 points in the sequence. Being able to wander around Wall Market in a dress is as much fun in the remake as it was in the original, and Cloud does get quite a lot of attention from it. Perhaps the funniest reaction is Chadley's. The poor boy gets totally confused when he realises he's speaking with his combat guinea pig, and has what he calls an emotional reaction. This is both a suggestion that he is attracted to Cloud, and provides a hint about his true identity. As for the whereabouts of Cloud and Aerith's clothes and weapons, I'll come back to that. Arriving once more at Don Corneo's mansion with endorsements from the trio, Cloud and Aerith present themselves to Leslie and the doormen. Leslie is not fooled for 1 second, but permits them to enter nonetheless, which is yet another allusion to his character's principles and agenda, as I discussed at the end of the previous episode. In a slight change to the original version, the pair are drugged with sleeping gas and are taken to the mansion's dungeon, where a very surprised Tifa waits. Her reaction when she realises the blonde girl is actually Cloud is priceless, and his hastened response is one of my favourite moments in the whole game. The dungeon itself makes your skin crawl just as much as the originals did, with all the same devices making a return. One of the new additions though is the special vending machine in the corner. This is what I was referencing earlier when I spoke about the mystery drink at the Coliseum. Like the standard vending machines in the game, it advertises potions as energy drinks, and if you look closely, you might note the figurine is holding 2 glowing vials in its hands. The vials themselves are the same design as the limited edition potions that could be purchased from Square Enix during the Final Fantasy VII 10th anniversary celebration run. As for the figurine itself, it's a pretty decent likeness to Tetsuya Nomura's original artwork for Corneo, which had a glass of wine in his hand rather than a potion, but the cartoonish look complements the illustrations that appear in the art book from the Remake's deluxe editions. These same illustrations pop up at the Coliseum as well. As much as Don Corneo is an absolute horror of a person, I think the creators totally nailed him as a character. His sleaziness, the way he moves, his facial expressions, it's just perfect. An interesting piece of trivia that most fans probably won't know is that Corneo is voiced in the English version by actor Fred Tatasciore, who also voiced Loz in Advent Children. In the original game, the player's choices when collecting the accessories for Cloud's outfit had a direct impact on who the Dawn selected in the edition. He will always choose Cloud in the remake, however, which I assume was the developer's way of reducing the sexual threat element in order to secure the game's rating. Obviously, this perceived threat does not extend to leaving Aerith and Tifa in a room with Corneo's salivating henchmen. The girls more than handle themselves in the ensuing skirmish, however, which results in Aerith's now iconic chair moment. Leslie arrives immediately afterwards, carrying with him the group's clothes and weapons. He reveals that he is in cahoots with Andrea, who, in turn, is likely working with Madame M to bring down Corneo. As mightily convenient as this all seems, it's slightly more believable than the original game, where the characters' gear is apparently hidden under their dresses. Nevertheless, it does raise one very curious question. How did Leslie get his hands on Tifa's outfit? As was shown earlier in Chapter 9, Tifa was already in her dress when she travelled by Chocobo cart to Wall Market. I guess we'll just need to make our peace with that particular plot hole. Meanwhile, with Corneo and his new bride alone in his bedroom, he starts trying to woo Cloud, all the while taking photographs with hidden cameras. This doesn't play any role in the remake, but it becomes quite significant in the novel The Kids Are Alright. During that story, the main protagonist Evan is searching for fuel for his car. Cloud sends him to Don Corneo, knowing that the gangster, who is by this time in a wheelchair, respects him enough to give Evan what he wants. While in this very bedroom, Corneo remarks that meeting Cloud was the beginning of his downfall. He warns Evan never to judge someone by their appearance, as it can lead to monumental screw-ups. It's unclear if this is a direct reference to being deceived by Cloud's cross-dressing, or more broadly to the misplaced trust in Leslie. After the conversation, Evan discovers photographs of countless women, all taken by cameras in this room. Among them is one of Leslie's fiancée. It's also revealed that pictures of Cloud, Tifa and Aerith exist, a fact that later leads to the mansion being burned down. Anyway, Tifa and Aerith soon arrive to assist in getting Don Corneo to talk. As with Leslie, it's surprising to see Tifa carrying Cloud's sword so easily, in one arm no less. Throughout the compilation, it's often been suggested that the Buster Swords, or others, are relatively heavy and require two hands to wield. There's also the element of balance as well as weight. Either that's an incorrect presumption, or the writers have just skipped over the physics for this scene. Given the regularity with which this occurs through the remake, I would bet my money on the latter. And to conclude, I'm delighted that the creators decided to keep in the threats the party make to Corneo's genitals. Knowing the nature of the man, it's an effective way to get him to spill the beans on Shinra's plan to destroy Sector 7. What did surprise me though was that the trapdoor is still there. It seems a bit too slapstick for the seriousness of the situation, but then again, what better a way to sum up Wall Market? Well folks, this has been part 3 of my recap of the compilation lore and Easter eggs from Chapter 9 in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please be sure to leave a comment with any feedback or something you think I've missed. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to check out my own Patreon account, where you'll find free downloads of my unofficial novelisation of Final Fantasy VII, The Nibelheim Incident, and so much more. Subscribers also get access to a huge amount of original content as well, including project artwork, behind the scenes podcasts, creator videos, etc. And please consider picking up a copy of my new book, Norse Myths That Inspired Final Fantasy VII, which is on sale now. But until next time, take care. I'm MJ Gallagher, in association with KupoCon, and I'll speak to you again soon.